How's it going, everybody? What up, YouTube Live? Today is Sunday, June 23rd, 2019, evening, and I just watched the latest episode of Big Little Lie Season 2, Episode 3, actually. The title is The End of the World. Oh, man. Okay, so there are parts about this episode that were just absolutely hilarious, mostly involving Renata. But before we get to that, there were also parts of it that just made me pause and think. The writing is kind of profound in this episode. Um, for instance, last week's episode, it was revealed to Ed that his wife Maddie cheated on him, and of course he did not take that kindly, and he was pissed. Understandably so, he was really angry. And so, a big chunk of today's episode deals with that aftermath, in that Maddie, um, I guess you could say, not necessarily feels remorseful. Yes, she does feel remorseful, but also she feels lost. Like, oh my God, what did I do? This nice guy that's my husband, I lost his trust, and so as you can see from the image of the thumbnail image of this review, one of the scenes was Maddie and her husband Ed um, getting counseled from the same psychiatrist that counsels Maddie and Celeste, played by Robin Weigert, I believe. She plays Calamity Jane on Deadwood. Um, and at one point, the shrink or the psychiatrist kind of tries to make it be about both of them. I was a little bit taken aback when I was like, why are you trying to make it also about Ed? Like, Ed is the victim here. Maddie cheated on Ed. What's Ed got to do with it? And the shrink kind of explained that maybe your disengagement, that's how she put it. All right, I'm paraphrasing. That caused Maddie to look elsewhere for comfort or excitement, whatever, right? Again, I'm paraphrasing. Basically, what the shrink was insinuating is that, hey, um, maybe you didn't do enough or go above and beyond to be there for Maddie. And I was like, really? And of course, that got pushed back by Ed. It's like, devotion was all that I ever gave to her. Now, we can have a long argument probably about whether or not Ed as a character is boring, whether or not he, is not spicy enough, however you want to describe it. Maybe he could be a little more, just a bit more like lively, vibrant. That argument can be had. Maybe he was a bit of a dull, uninteresting kind of husband or partner. But it's still no excuse. um, Disengagement. Now, I'm not married, okay? I'm not trying to preach to anybody who's married out there. It's like, hey, this is what you should do, or this is your fault, or this is what your problem is. But I believe that, just because if your partner, it doesn't have to be marital, could be in a relationship or could be friendship, if they quote unquote disengage you in any way, if I'm using the shrink's argument, um that doesn't make it right for us who feel disengaged to, like, you know what, I'm gonna betray this friendship by um by getting myself involved with somebody who I feel is engaging. So I don't know if that justifies it. So I'm glad that after Ed says that, though, after Ed pushed back, the shrink brought the attention back to Maddie. I was like, it's like, why are you unfaithful? And you know what? I've never been to a shrink in my whole life, mainly because they are expensive. I hear they cost like what, $500 per hour or something like that. That's why if you want to have a career that makes loads of money, be a psychiatrist for reals, especially psychiatrists in regions like this one, neighborhoods where um, people are rich enough and people are so rich that they are not happy. You will make tons of money being psychiatrist in a region like this the what this show is set in, which is Monterey. I'm not saying Monterey is like that, but yeah. And one of the things that was profound, I mentioned earlier, there were so many profound stuff here. Ed, there's a scene where Ed was having conversation with Bonnie, and then he was all warm and friendly, and then Maddie came, and I was like, whoa. And then of course the mood kind of suddenly changed, and then Bonnie's like, oh, okay, I'll leave you too. And Ed got angry again, of course, because Maddie's there. And Maddie's like, how long are you gonna punish me? How long are you gonna be cruel and mean like this? You were never mean. This is not you, Maddie said. And Ed said, well, whatever I am or have always been apparently has not netted the desired result. So it's good writing there. I It's been a while since I heard like netted the desired result. That's something out of a novel or book you read. Um that's what I'm trying to say is like who says that? Like no, netted the desired result. And but number two is like, yeah, he has a point. Like, okay, I was this devoted good guy, and you cheated on me. So I guess why would you expect me to go back to being that uncruel or unmean or good guy again? Because apparently that didn't work. That only led you to sleep with another man. Um, and you know what? If I were Ed, it might sound vengeful or vindictive, but hell yeah, I'd probably hang that over her head for the rest of her life. Um, I would not be like immediately like, okay, I'll forgive you, or like, let's talk this out. Let's work it. No, I would hold on to that grudge for a moment while, um, at least for me, because I don't take kindly to betrayal in friendship, relationship, or anything. So if Ed wants to be mean to Maddie, let him be mean. He has it's he has the he's justified to be mean. You know what I'm saying? To be dismissive of Maddie. He has the good reason to be that way. And if he wants to take all the time he needs to be mean like that to Maddie, go for it. Have at it. Because again, um, Maddie's the one that kind of fucked up, not him. Now, another thing that was profound, at least this is one of the reasons why I love this show. Um, One of the scenes that is in this episode is a couple of scenes, I should say. Maddie talked with Celeste in a car, and the direction is very simple. With a camera from behind, like in the back of the passenger seat, um, and Maddie would unload, of course, talk about her stuff, her burden to Celeste. And then Maddie would ask Celeste, "Hey, are you still having that little joyride?" And Celeste says, "Well, the shrink says it's because because I'm still not over Perry." So there's a couple of scenes like that in this episode, and there are moments like that also throughout season one, as well. I think, and that is one of the reasons why I love this show, is because it, it's basically women sharing their feelings to each other. Now I know the men, the males, right, the guys, when we hear something like that, we're like, oh, we're like so icky. But I was like, oh, the women trying to share feelings, they're trying to have their girls' night out, but they're gonna be talking about feelings all night long. That's what they do. Um, but there's something about it that just, especially with the way Maddie and Celeste share with each other, it's so. And this is a testament also to Reese Witherspoon and Nicole Kidman, as great actresses as they are. It's so measured, the way they deliver their lines in that car. It's not like one long statement, there's like, it feels like you can breathe in between, um in between their expression. Like they take their time. Yeah, it feels like you can breathe. It's not, when you watch something like Desperate Housewives, for example. That I also was a fan of Desperate Housewives. When the women share with each other, oftentimes it gets, as I remember it, it gets interrupted by some sort of a confrontation or some cynical statement that one of them would make. Um, Whereas in this one, it feels like, just like there's beats to it. I don't know. I don't know what's the best. I don't know the best way to describe it, other than you can actually breathe while you're watching Maddie and Celeste share with each other. It feels like, oh, there's a moment of relaxation that comes with it, instead of tension. Um, but speaking of which, there was a lot of tension happening in this episode, which led us to my next point, involving Renata. Oh my God, Renata! She is probably the funniest character on this show. Last week, when her husband was arrested for security fraud, she said to him, behind that um, prison or jail glass, as you say, it's like, I will not be rich, man. And I already mentioned to you, I already told you my thoughts about the whole thing of like, oh, there are just some people out there who feel like they have to be rich, otherwise they don't mean a thing. But the positive side of that is that they are go-getters, because when they hit rock bottom, or they hit poverty, they would crawl, whatever, their way back to um, wealth, back to richness, because they have to be rich. Um, so, but in this episode, um, her daughter Annabelle, I believe that's her name, had a panic attack because apparently the teachers in the school have been discussing climate change to the students, and Annabelle in particular, she did not take it well. And but in the hospital scene, uh, Renata's there, right, with her daughter, and then her husband shows up, Renata's husband. And oh my God, that scene is so well performed by these actors. Like she kept saying to him, like, "Don't talk to her, don't talk to her." And then the doctor comes in, and the doctor suggests counseling, not just for Annabelle, but for the whole family, the whole three of them. And then of course Renata gets defensive, like, "Oh," Oh, Laura Dern is so good in this role. Laura Dern, oh my god, she plays it so well. And then she lashed out at the principal and the teacher, and the principal was like, you see how Shakespearean some of these women are, some of these mothers are, and Renata is the Medusa of them all. Oh, so I love it. I love it. It takes me back to the that's the desperate housewives type of moment. Um, as opposed to the sharing feelings thing inside the car between Maddie and Celeste. That's more, more again, um, I guess therapeutic, if you could say, or cathartic. Renata moments are very desperate housewives esque, and of course, because it's HBO, they drop f bombs every other word, and that makes it even extra funny. Uh, and this is what I don't get about Renata's husband, man. I get that. I understand that some people have the that kind of hobby, the train set. I don't have that hobby. I'm not a collector. I don't even collect Blu-rays, so let alone collect, you know, miniature train sets. But that's his hobby, and but I, I I don't fully. I can't wrap my head around that particular enjoyment because he's basically just staring at this train that's just going around that's on the same track over and over again, but you can tell that it might not be a hobby as much as it is him withdrawing or retrieving, or like avoiding his wife, and everything. And he did lash out at Renata, and he made some good points as well. Um, but if he hadn't had that moment or opportunity, if Renata hadn't like walked into that room, um, he would have been there for the whole night, and nobody would be the wiser, and he would have been just fine with that. I So yeah, it's more than just like, I think more than just like a hobby for him. To him, it's like it's his safe space. It's 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 a place, or it's a room where um, the stress of the world is outside, and I'm here just being me. I guess I can relate to that on some level, but definitely not the train set. I don't get that at all. Renata, man, Renata. Oh man, I don't think, if I were to know somebody like Renata in my circle of friends, I don't know if I can. I think that would be too much for me. I don't know if I can handle a Renata in my life. Um, to have a friend like that, to me, that's a bit too much. Let alone being married to somebody like that. So, whew, um, best of luck to that husband. um, let's talk about Mary Louise, Meryl Streep's character. Another profound thing that happened in this episode also involves Mary Louise. Um, the scenes that she had in this episode, she had them with Jane Chapman, played by Shailene Woodley, whom, by the way, tries to go out with that new boy that has a crush on her, but uh, I don't really have an opinion about that. They have this awkward hug, awkward dance, awkward kiss. I get it. I get it now. She's still traumatized with the idea of a man touching her because of the rape. So totally understandable. There's not much to discuss about that. Um, but Mary Louise wanted to get blood tests, Iggy's blood, to prove that Ziggy, I'm sorry, not Iggy, Ziggy is indeed Perry's son. Perry, of course, played by Alexander Skarsgård, who raped Jane Chapman, and um, and At one point in this episode, Mary Louise had a sit down with Jane, and oh my God, Mary Louise basically her line of questioning was tiptoeing on like the offensive, because she basically was like, okay, was there anything leading up to the rape that caused him to act that way? Did you do anything? Did you provoke? Did you tempt my son Perry? Did you? I'm like, really, really, you gotta ask those questions? And to Jane Chapman's credit, she's not like, she didn't just up and go and went berserk and angry. Like, how dare you ask me those questions? To her credit, it's a tough thing to swallow. I was like, to face, like, really, you're accusing me of, like, your son raped me, and you're trying to. So, to her credit, she answered back firmly and in a way that, like, hey, your line of questioning is messed up, it's fucked up, you know. Um, I'm the victim here, or I was the victim here, and the profound thing that Mary Louise said, and I'm not saying it's a good thing, I'm just saying it's profound, because she said, I'm paraphrasing here, she said, I can't surrender to the idea that my son is evil. I can't surrender to the idea that my son is evil. Now, I'm not a parent. Um, I'm not. I never had a child. um, but I have parents, and my parents would go above and beyond for me and my little sisters. And so, from that aspect, I kind of can see where she's coming from, Mary Louise. I mean, just imagine if the person that you raise all your life, because you know, this revelation that your son is a wife beater and a rapist pretty much contrasts or destroys all that memory that you had of raising him from little boy to a grown man. And then of course it smashes um it smashes your belief into pieces that you are a good parent, because now, like, oh my God, what did I do wrong? Where did I, but Mary Louise is in denial. She's like, no, I did not do anything wrong. I'm a good parent. My son is a good boy. I did not fuck up in raising him. So she stubbornly and fiercely tries to stay in that realm. She doesn't want to get out of that zone. Um, and I think a lot of parents can relate to that. Their kids don't have to be necessarily rapists or wife beaters, but if somebody accuse, if you're a parent, I don't know why I call it parent. If you're a parent and somebody accuses your son or your daughter of something that you're like, you find it so unbelievable, like, no way my son, my daughter did that, right? So you would defend your son and daughter to the whatever, right? Um, so I tweeted last month, like, I tweeted like, okay, Perry was the bad guy or the villain in season 1. Now that he's gone, who's gonna be the unifying villain that that these 5 women kind of stand up against, if you will? And one reply to that tweet is like, oh, Meryl Streep. Well, in the first few episodes I mentioned to you in this new season, like, I can see that, because Meryl Streep is gonna be like, or Mary Louise is gonna be like, you know what? I'm gonna get to the bottom of this. I'm gonna find out the truth. And so, as I said to you, the 5 women are now forced to, like, okay, we got to get our story straight. We can't let Bonnie confess. Even though the guilt is eating at her. So I guess in that way, Mary Louise can be quote unquote the villain. Um, but in this episode, though, in tonight's episode, there's nothing about her approach that suggests villainy. If anything, I feel kind of sad or bad for her because she can't, or she refuses to like really accept the idea that her son could ever do such a thing. And that's something that I think a lot of parents can relate to when their kids are being accused of something that they just, no, my kids would not do that. I know my kids. Um, so that's not villainy. That's just part of the blind spots of being a parent. Um, so in this episode tonight, I just feel bad or sad rather for Mary Louise, because she's stuck in that thinking, and and I don't think there's getting out of it. I don't think she's gonna be able to come from there, to the realization of the fact of Perry. And lastly, before I end this review, um, I want to comment real quick about Maddie's speech in the assembly. So Maddie gets invited up to the stage in this episode, um, because the climate change discussion has put a lot of students, specifically Renata's daughter, in anxiety. And the first part of the speech kind of went okay. She basically said, "Hey, we get it. Climate change is important and it's a threat for reals, but at the same time, you don't need to say that upfront or like really brutally to our kids. They're second graders. They don't need to know all that. They still believe in Santa Claus and Tooth Fairy. So I that was good. That was good. So basically, what she's saying, like, hey, we gotta have some moderation, some balance here. You know, we as parents, we often lie to our kids, and that's true. My parents lied to me too when I was a kid to keep me from discovering certain truths that I was not ready for yet, at my age. And that's what parents do. They lie to their kids. And when it's time, maybe they'll share that truth to them. Climate change might be something that's just too overwhelming for a kid to digest. On top of the fact that, of course, Renata and her husband are going through this trouble, and of course, the daughter probably picks it up as well, and that probably puts on an additional stress on top of the climate change, end of the world stuff. So the early part of the speech was good. I was like, yes, I'm with you, Maddie. I'm with you all the way. And then halfway through to the end, it derailed. It derailed. She went off the tracks and just like crashed, and um without confessing, in details about the whole trouble that she had with her husband. She basically mumbled on, about regarding that, but in a way that's not, really revealing too much. But you can tell that she is a mess. She's a mess right now. But again, to my point earlier, hey, Ed, if Ed wants to stay angry, I'm with Ed right now. I'm like, hey, I'm even surprised that Ed is still around, like sticking around. I would be out of that house, man. I'm like, I don't want to share my house with a cheater. But that's just me. So, man, that last part of the speech kind of like was hilarious because she broke down and she just she had a mental breakdown basically. I know I shouldn't probably laugh at that, but it was a bit entertaining. So this is a fun show. Fun maybe not be the right word to describe it, but it is. It is in the midst of the drama and the confrontation, and the whole betrayal and the whole wife beating in season one, and the whole you know finding out who murdered my kid. In the midst of all that, there are these instances, there are these moments that are just hilarious. They're just funny, and And that's what makes Big Little Lies just so addictive. I keep coming back to it every Sunday evening. So yeah, thanks so much for tuning into my long rant. Right now, I'm gonna go watch tonight's episode of Euphoria. Oh my god, I am not looking forward to Euphoria. That pilot episode was so depressing. We'll see how that goes tonight. Okay. Um, Oh, Brian Lee's here. Hey, man, hope you're doing well. Last we talked, it was on your review of this year's movie, The Prodigy. I hope all is well, brother. Thank you, Brian Lee. Appreciate your chat. And share your thoughts. If you've seen tonight's Big Little Lies episode, do you agree or disagree with my assessment? I want to hear your thoughts about tonight's episode in the comment section down below. And as always, subscribe to my channel, press that like button, ring that bell. And if you can help support this channel, please do so at patreon.com/ramascreen. Let's rock this!